Thank you for joining us. This is Health Your Own Way podcast, and I am your host, Mo Atkins. Welcome to another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health for special needs parents. My guest speaker is Charmaine. She's a mother of three, two on the autism spectrum and one with ADHD. Charmaine has been an advocate and a mentor to parents in the special needs community for over 10 years, helping moms navigate the special need worlds with sanity. I think we all need sanity. Charmaine, thank you for joining us. I appreciate this conversation with you. I wanted to have this conversation because I believe that I don't often hear about it. And I think a lot of people should be self-aware. So anything you want to add before we start today?
Nope, that's me in a nutshell, other than I like sparkly stuff and I love to play in my garden and read. I'm a pretty boring girl.
I like that. And I guess the first thing we want to start is, because we're talking about mental health, but we're specifically directing to special needs parents, because I don't think people address how stressful it could be when you have that kind of family member within your unit. So why is it important for parents that do have special needs children to be well aware of their mental health for their overall well-being?
So what I discovered is when I was trying to be all things, making sure that doctor's appointments were made and all that other stuff, and I wasn't taking care of myself. One, you're not going to be as effective as you think you are. Okay. Two, you're going to find yourself getting ticked off over the smallest things, like really, really easy. A doctor canceling an appointment, a doctor being late, which is like a given in any community that you're in as a late doctor. Mm-hmm. You're going to find yourself always on edge. Okay. And so one of the things that's not really talked about in our community is there are therapists that specifically support special needs parents because of all of the, pieces that go into it. And so it's important so you can show up as your fullest self. It's important so that when you are dealing with a caseworker or a doctor, that you're not purely coming from a space of emotion, but you're able to fully assess a situation to realize what you need to do. When you're not taking care of your mental health, when you're not taking those breaks, when you're not able to find that space to breathe, things are going to feel even more compacted, if that makes any sense. You're always going to feel on edge. And so that is so important.
I like when you say that. I think, and before we go further, a lot of people are like, okay, everybody should know what special needs are, but can we define what is considered special needs in this conversation today?
So that's a loaded question. Mm-hmm. It could be a kid with a diagnosis, and it could be a kid without a diagnosis or an individual. It could just be someone that requires a bit more than what and I have it in air quotes, a neurotypical child would do. So for instance, my one son on the spectrum, I can't go to the pool with him and bring a book. Like, that's a non-given.
Okay.
But my other kids, I can, I can read a book and I can look up and, they're okay. It could be a child that's doing that. It could be a child that has trouble reading or deciphering letters. It could be anything, it could be something that has a label to it, or you could just have a kid that has quirks that's just a little bit different and they process things differently and you're not quite sure what's going on. I've worked with many moms whose kids are undiagnosed. There's a problem there. There's definitely something going on, but they have no clue as to what it is.
Fair enough.
So special needs is really it's a loaded question because it depends on the dynamics of that family. It depends on how it's impeding that individual from fully participating in life or engaging within the life of the family. It's just so, this is it's a touchy subject, and it's like, I wish I could find a word for it. Yeah.
I know it was an unfair question itself, but I think, we wanted to at least address it because you're right. Like, if somebody, and I think I appreciate that because, for a lot of individuals that may not have kids or do have kids, but they don't have special needs kids, they don't really understand the dynamics or what could be considered, or even somebody's watching you and listening to you right now. It's more like, maybe there's something that I need to review about my child. Maybe they are. So it's just me educating them and letting them aware that, this could be a possibility for you.
Like
And
you
I
don't
think,
even have to have a diagnosis. Like it could just be, intuitively as a mom or as a caregiver that something is just not working for them, you know.
fair enough. And I think what was interesting is when you mentioned to me that there's actually special mental health individuals that help special needs parents. I wasn't aware of that. Like, do they like specifically specialize in that because of the challenges that they face?
So some of the therapists that I've encountered,
Mhm.
they that's like one of the special subsets that they have.
Okay.
So it's not like they necessarily went to school. It's possibly that they've worked with so many special needs parents in the past that they use it as a subset. If you go on psychologytoday.com
Mhm.
and type in, special needs parenting or something like that, you should come up with a good, depending on where you are in the world and in the country, you should come up with a pretty good selection of therapists that can support. And also, like if your kid is receiving state services, then they should be able to support you as well in finding therapists and things that are able to understand the nuances that go on with being a special needs parent / caregiver.
And I agree, say that. And then one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning to me that stood out was at one point you were trying to do everything for your child. You were trying to be there. You had to start worrying about yourself. So for individuals who are watching or listening, what would you say that made you start, changing your mindset to start really wondering, okay, take a step back because I need to be mentally healthy to be able to help my kids. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
I do. So my turning point was me actually physically passing out on my bathroom floor. Like
That's really
that was
here.
my turning point. Yeah. I wasn't taking the other cues that my mind and my body were just exhausted. And I passed out on the floor and my husband, like, he was like, I just found you on the floor. And if you troll my social media, you'll see I used to have a scar like on my head from when I fell. Yeah, from when I fell out on the floor because I was trying to do everything. My oldest son had not only autism, but he had seizures. And then my daughter was also on the spectrum. And then the baby was a little bit younger. But I do what I do because I don't want another mom. I don't want the point for her to turn things around is to be, imagine if I didn't have anybody in my home with me and I fell out on the floor on a tile floor and hit my head and I was just out. Like my kids wouldn't have been able to really support me. So that unfortunately was my turning point to go, oh my God, Charmaine, you this is not working out for you. Like I was physically and mentally exhausted wasn't even the word because I was trying to do all the things. I wasn't engaging my husband to ask for help. I wasn't using the resources to ask for help. I wasn't using any other part of my team to ask for help because, something else is kind of unspoken. The motherhood community is kind of like a mean girl society. And if you're not doing it all on your own, then there's something wrong with you. And so,
Isn't that toxic?
it's toxic. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little shocked because when you say mean girls, like we all understand, a bit little, and so.
Yeah, it
But
can.
even in that, isn't that about also mental health? People that feel like they have to do everything and they need to. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're fine. That was about mental health as well because of the stories that I had told myself. When you get down into mental health, well, one of the questions my therapist asked me was, well, who told you had to do everything? And I had to stop and think, like, I don't know, like nobody really said, Charmaine, you have to do all the things. It was, an expectation / obligation that I had created and that I had created based off of kind of what you see on the gram, what you see other moms doing, how you perceive other moms to be slaying it in life when they're really falling apart just like you. And so I also had to take like a social media cleanse because a lot of these moms, they are not showing the real. And you're like, well, oh my God, she has like 5 kids and she's doing it easy. Okay, but all 5 of her kids are like neurotypical and she has a nanny and she has, and right now it's just you. So all this stuff, you need to adjust your life accordingly. But I had to change my BS. I had to change my belief system around how do I really want to show up? What is really important to my kids? When I talk to my kids and I ask them, well, what's important? They're like, Mom, like you're already great. That's like the most humbling thing as a mom because we think that we need to go like above and beyond all the time. And our kids are like really happy with tomato soup and grilled cheese. Like they're like, oh, my favorite thing about you, mom, is like when there's pizza night and we make pizzas together. And, you know, in my head, I'm like, oh, this is so horrible. Like I'm ordering a pizza or I'm doing this. And the kids are like, this is great. Like, we love this. And so I had to learn how to ask, what are you guys actually looking for? Like, this is what I'm willing to give. And what are you guys actually looking for to take some of that pressure off, some of that self-pressure? Plus, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So, you know, wanting things to look a certain way. And then when you start looking, I think every mom should look into childhood trauma. And you know, a lot of the childhood traumas and a lot of the things from my childhood shaped how I was parenting my kids and how I was showing up, because it wasn't that I actually had to be as hands-on as I thought. You know, it was just that the story I had concocted of the perfect mom, because my therapist one time asked me, so what is the perfect mom? And when I told her, she was like, that's impossible for you to do by yourself. Like, let's talk about setting up some realistic expectations for your life. And so that was like really helpful as well. But yeah, it's a roller coaster journey, you know?
I'm listening to you and I'm getting stressed out. I'm sorry, Charmaine. I'm listening to you, I'm getting stressed out. And I think, you know, I appreciate you, sharing your experience and relating to how others may be feeling the same way. Because you know, when you made a point about how you see other people from social media, you need to do a cleanness.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this. I think a lot of people have to do the same thing for mental health as well, because they assume that what's in social media is real. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And I think, you know, for your mental health, you know, don't compare yourself with other people. Everybody, you don't know what really is behind the door or behind that camera. And I appreciate you saying that. I think, you know, you said that we did indicate at the beginning that you do help mental health, special needs parents and stuff. Like, do you offer a program, or is there something like if they want to learn more about how to, you know, improve their mental health or how to take the first steps? What's the best platform to reach you out on?
So the best platform, I am on Facebook and Instagram, but the best place, I've done a video case study on how I got out of overwhelm hell. And so they can pick that up for free at workwithcharmaine.me. And they can just pick that up there. And it's just it's under 10 minutes. And just the points that I use to get out of overwhelm hell and the things that I had to realize about life that, you know, I had made to be true, but actually, you know, wasn't true. Not for me anyway. And, you know, getting clear about what that looked like. I always tell my moms clarity. You know, we're always talking about clarity because a lot of moms aren't clear. We don't take the time to sit down and be clear because we feel like if I take the time to be clear, then I could be doing something else. And that just further snowballs that overwhelm or anxiety that they're feeling about whatever it is going on, because they're waiting for the right time to sit and get clarity because they feel like it's too like even that part feels overwhelming. Like if you just tell a mom to get clear, she's like, what do you mean? Like, I clearly don't want to be overwhelmed anymore. Is that good enough? You know?
Fair enough. I know what you mean. I think for me, in just listening to your story, I feel like maybe even if you're not special needs parents, a lot of people, you know, want to be the perfect mom, perfect parent. There's no such thing, right? And I think, you know, there's more challenges with, you know, possibly special needs because there's more components to it, right?
Yeah.
And I appreciate you having this conversation because I think a lot of people should be self-aware that you can't do everything. Even if you're just biased, you just can't. And your mental health, like if you're not taking care of yourself and you're burnt, because you said you knew when it was enough when you were found on the floor and you basically passed out. Like at that point, you just ignored all signs is what I understood from you.
Yeah, I ignored everything. I kept saying, like I hear a lot of my mom say, I'll change this when I have free time. I'll do this when I have free time. You're like, I'll take a day off when, you know, there's more space, when everything slows down. And
when does that happen?
It doesn't. You have to create that space. And that's the scariest thing to do when you've been living on adrenaline for a major part of your life, where everything is like, what fire do I need to put out next? Okay, go over here. Like, you know, when you're just kind of, have you seen Over the Hedge, that little kids cartoon?
No.
So I think most parents know what I talk about. There's this little
Go ahead.
squirrel character named Hammy. And Hammy is a squirrel. So, squirrels are like really fast and they're all over the place. That's kind of like what moms are sometimes in their head, is like Hammy is like this, then this. Okay, we're going to do this. And it's like, breathe, slow down. A lot of the work I do with my moms is intuitive, trusting their self type of, that type of deal, to teach them how to trust themselves again,
I like that. Because I think I personally am not a mother, so I can't really, understand where you guys are coming from. You just talking to you, I'm tired. I don't know how you're tired with that much need. So I commend you. I think I commend you on multiple factors. Is the fact that, you knew you took initiative and you realized that it was time for change. And also you basically took your lesson learned and you're trying to educate others to make sure they don't make the same mistakes you did.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, is there anything else you want to add or say to anybody who's watching that is kind of going through this kind of situation right now?
Trust yourself. You know what needs to be done. Intuitively where things are askew. Trust that little bitty gut feeling in there and search for the spaces to help you make those changes. Don't try to do it yourself, because you've tried before. I can put money on it. You tried before and then life happened again, and you trust your intuition. Look for the spaces to help you and then receive.
I love that. I want to say thank you for that. And I appreciate this conversation, and have a good day, Charmaine.
All right. Take care.
We're glad to have you join us. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, share with anyone that needs to be empowered and inspired. And don't forget to join us next week for the next episode of Health Your Way podcast. Have a good day, you guys.